Oh, hello. You caught me dozing off. That happens often when you're a successful project manager like myself and have time to get away from it all. You know, speaking of project management, we're going to talk about that today. Specifically, emotional intelligence and what it takes to have the 5 components of emotional intelligence and have a successful team. Oh, but first, let's get out of this and into more presentable attire, huh? Good evening. Today, on Learning with Matt Dillon, we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. Now, how does this apply to where you work? Or more importantly, how does this apply to having a successful team? We're going to begin with the components of emotional intelligence. They are as follows: self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation, social management, and my personal favorite, empathy. You may be thinking, well, that's great and all, but I'm just a generally smart person, so I'll be successful at whatever. Wrong. It's actually more important to be emotionally intelligent than just intelligent, because you'll have a better understanding of how to work with people, how people actually work, and in order to predict their actions or how they may respond in the working environment. And you might think, well, okay, but why is this all important still? Think about it. You go to work every day, you get a paycheck, you have people to look after, such as your loved ones, your family, a significant other. You have your hobbies and your passions. And emotional intelligence applies to all of these things that take place in our daily lives, especially when working on a team. You see, in the workforce, some of us have a saying and a belief: hyperproductivity equals hyperpositivity. What does that mean? That means when you're exceeding your deliverables and you're meeting your schedules on time or ahead of time, that means everyone is positive, in a good mood, because, well, they're doing a good job. And that in and of itself is one of the components of emotional intelligence: self-motivation. When you're a motivated individual without anybody's help, you can't help but breathe motivation into other people's lives. What does that mean? Your teammates are going to look at you and say, wow, my project manager really knows how to kick it up a notch. Whatever he's having, I want also. I want a taste of it. What does that mean? Your teammates are going to look up to you. They're going to look for guidance for you. And that in and of itself is a confidence booster in yourself, as well as a place to confide for your teammates. And not only is that motivating, but it creates a positive and trustworthy environment with your team. Now, having trust in the team is of vital importance. And you may be wondering, of course it is, because, trust is one of the core values that people have in regards to morals and ethics and just a policy in and of itself. Now, in order to trust one another, you have to understand how one another works, and not just on their own individually, but with each other as a group. That's why our second component brings us to self-awareness. It is vital for a project manager to be aware of the situation that they are given at any single moment in time. You see, if you know who's meeting their deliverables, who's slacking, or which stakeholders want to opt out of the project, that means you're aware of the risks, how to mitigate them, how to fix them, and also how to prevent them. It's important to be aware of your situation at all times in order to predict actions and outcomes, as well as prevent certain ones from occurring. Self-awareness. The next one, self-regulation. A lot of us are fiery and emotional when it comes to outside of work, but some of us may bring unwanted emotions to work. That's why it's important to have self-regulation as one of the components of a successful team. You see, emotional intelligence is a group of components that work in conjunction with one another. And one of the most important ones is self-regulation. If you can't control your emotions, your words, or your actions, well then you don't belong in the workplace. There are certain ethics that stop one another from behaving certain ways, which is called a code of conduct. Now, the code of conduct is associated with self-regulation because in order to behave in the workplace is an expectation, as well as will help deliverables occur at a rate that is expected. Why is that? Well, with emotions, they either hinder you from working well, or they can actually help you and work more efficiently. When you're motivated, again, motivated, self-motivation, when you're motivated on a task or a deliverable that you feel passionate about, you'll be able to breathe those emotions and regulate those emotions in order to do better work. Say, however, you're not excited about the deliverable that you have to do for your next project requirement. Well, it's also important not to let that negativity that you're feeling towards it hinder you from doing your work. Self-regulation, vital to have your emotions in check and everyone else's emotions, as well as predict them and how they might react in order to have a stable working environment. Self-regulation. The last and the most important component of emotional intelligence is empathy. Empathy is having emotion and sympathy for others in situations that may be troubling. So it's important to see where your teammate, where your other fellow individual is coming from. Sometimes we might go to work, we might not have the best days, we might mess up on deliverables, we might not meet certain requirements, and you can either be a bad employee or you might have some troubles going on in your life. It's important to have trust within your manager as well as your team so you can confide in them, so that just in case you might be troubled outside of work, you can be honest and open with your manager about what might be the cause of the problems going on at work. It is vital to empathize with your teammates, not only because they're human beings and they're going to have problems just like you might, but also because it's important to see from other perspectives. Being a project manager, you might think, well, I'm the manager for a reason. I'm going to be right no matter what. Wrong. You have an incredible toolbox at your disposal. Your teammates are human beings also. They have ideas, they work, and they're at the same place you are. And they're there for a reason, to help you out. You have your teammates as your best tool at your disposal. Use them as a tool. Ask them their thoughts, their considerations. What might make something better? What would make it worse and not go in that route or that direction? Considering their perspective is vital so that they understand that you see them as an equal and continue to build that trust. You want to have a bridge, a dialogue between one another in order to make it stronger and only build your team up from there. That's why empathy is the most important. In order to trust one another, in order to continue building all those components motivate one another, to regulate and keep your emotions in check, to be aware of how everyone is feeling about a situation. All those components wouldn't be possible to have if you didn't empathize with others. You have to understand how someone might feel about a certain situation, whether they have the benefit or the lack thereof, and see why they might feel a certain way and how to make that better. That's why empathy, in my opinion, is the most vital component of emotional intelligence, and without it, we'll never be successful. You are not responsible for your first thought, but you are responsible for your second thought and your first action. That is where your power lies. Thank you, folks, for listening today. This was Lessons with Matt Dillon. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned a lot about project management. Until next time.